Started. So welcome. My name is Dr. Drizzle, and we're really excited to have you here tonight. We do have a few housekeeping rules that will make tonight go really well. One of those is to make sure that your audio stays muted. There will be times during our event tonight when we're going to want you to unmute and share your ideas and ask all types of questions. But for now, if you can keep that muted. We're also going to ask you to, if you want your camera on, just remember that we are recording, so this can be archived. So feel free to do that. So if you don't want to be filmed, you can keep your video off, but otherwise we would love to see your faces. So let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to episode 10, San Antonio Missions. We are so glad that you're here tonight. We are joined by some really amazing guests, but most importantly, students around the country. We're going to be visiting San Antonio Missions National Historical Park and UNESCO World Heritage Site. This adventure that we're on tonight actually started back in November of 2021. Each month, we host live virtual events. And these events take a closer look inside different parks as we learn more about what makes each park so unique. This is made possible by a grant from the National Parks Foundation, so we're thrilled that they're part of this with us. They've been collaborating with us for about 4 months, and we think it's a beautiful relationship. Our goal is to hope that we inspire students to learn more about the world around them through our national parks as we learn from rangers, volunteers, and other dedicated park staff. So this is one of the missions, San Antonio Missions National Historical Park, which is part of the National Park System. So this is what we're going to be exploring tonight. Crossing America is made up of 4 different components: geography, science, stories, and STEM. Part of our adventure together is we like to create a scrapbook, if you will. So students, if you have pencil and paper around you and you want to grab that so you can take a few notes, please grab that now. You can use pencils or markers or crayons or whatever you have. And just, it's not going to be like school right now, but we want you to learn something and we want you to remember it. So we're going to ask that you take a few notes as you learn with us tonight. We are going to assist the parks in meeting some global goals, and then we're going to make connections with other students around the country. So let's start with geography. All right, so if you look at this map, the area that is highlighted is Texas. And if you look to the left of our map, you're going to see that San Antonio is located in Bexar County. So we always have known that Texas is a large state, but when you see it like this, it really is pretty big. So I'm going to ask you, how far is San Antonio, Texas from your home? Can you take just a minute and ask a mom or a dad or a grandparent or whoever you're with right now to see if you can figure out how far is San Antonio, Texas from your house? Now, it doesn't have to be exactly the right amount of miles. I will say from our house, and I'm guessing right now, it would take us a flight to maybe Dallas, which is going to be 3 or 4 hours. And then another flight to San Antonio. So if I'm using this in my head, it's about 1,400 miles from our house. Does anybody else know how far San Antonio, Texas is from your house? Please drop it in the chat window if you'd like to share with us. How far away? I know these rangers would love for you to come and visit them. So how far away do you think? Miss Zimmerman, how far away are we from you?
We are 1,150 miles from San Antonio.
And it looks like W. McPherson is 934 miles. Emily and Calvin are 2,041. So isn't it cool that even though we are far away from each other, we can all join tonight and learn some really cool things. All right, so let's meet our rangers first. So I'm going to actually ask that William, you're going to come on camera first. So if you can unmute and just tell us quickly about yourself. And I think these kids are going to be excited to know what your job was before the national park. So William?
Okay. I worked as a teacher for 31 years, mostly in social studies, sometimes in English and in English as a second language. And most of my time was in Texas. I taught in Houston and in Cypress Fairbanks and also in Tomball.
And your favorite park ever, be careful with this one, is?
That's San Antonio Missions.
Absolutely.
No question about that. This great park loaded with history, with science, nature, recreation. It's got it all. And I love it.
Well, we are glad that you've joined us tonight. Next, we're going to go to Ranger Rachel. So Ranger Rachel, we are locating you on the list. So if you will unmute and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. My sincere apologies that my camera is not going to work for me tonight, but I am one of the park rangers at San Antonio Missions, and I am from Iowa, which is also pretty far from San Antonio, kind of like a lot of you, but I made my way here and it is such a fun job.
Well, we are glad that you're here with us tonight. Ranger Elia, I saw you come onto the screen a little while ago. Can you unmute and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I am Ranger Elia, and I'm originally from France, and I just looked it up, and that's over 5,000 miles away from San Antonio. It's in a far, far place from home. But I love it down here. I love the sun. I love the heat. I actually burned incredibly. I don't know if you can see my lobster red face, but I'm absolutely loving it here.
And you have an interesting background. So you have a background in theater, or you like theater and history, right?
Film and history, yeah.
Film and history, yeah. So when you go to the website, kids, and you look at some of the videos, you're actually going to see Elia's name in some of the credits. I saw that he has done a little bit of work with filming. So if that's something you enjoy doing, you can do that as you work with the national parks.
And
so our last ranger,
William, Lisa, and Rachel, if you want to see Rachel's face in those videos, they're stars.
Oh, that's true. They're the rock stars, and you're making them look great. So our last ranger that's here with us tonight is Ranger Lisa. So Ranger Lisa, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I was a science education coordinator for an art and science museum for a few years before I got my ranger dream job. And I was also a stained glass assistant. And my career path has been kind of like a roller coaster. I really enjoy learning new things, and I love giving everything a try. So I've enjoyed my experience, and it's definitely supplemented with my park job because I get to do a lot of things that I've learned.
Well, great. And Lisa, we're actually going to show a little video with you in it right now, because kids, our job tonight is to try to help solve a problem with the national parks. And I don't mean a problem like it's a horrible thing. It's a challenge. And we all have challenges, and they want you to help them figure it out. So we're going to watch a short video with Lisa on the Gristmill. So take a look.
Hi there, my name is Ranger Lisa. Welcome to San Antonio Missions National Historical Park and World Heritage Site. The building you see behind me is called the Mission San Jose Gristmill. This gristmill was built in 1794 after the mission's first successful harvest of wheat. The Mission San Jose Gristmill is the oldest operating gristmill in Texas. What you see today was restored in the 1930s. The gristmill is a machine that grinds wheat into flour that makes products like bread. Let me show you how this works. A person called the miller is in charge of running the gristmill. This mill is powered by an acequia or an irrigation ditch coming from the San Antonio River to water our farmlands. Not only did the acequias water our crops, but they help machinery such as the mill. It takes 250 gallons of water each minute to power the mill. That's 250 of these. At full capacity, this gristmill can produce 1 pound of flour per minute. Although it is no longer active today, this gristmill serves as evidence of the past and as a symbol of cultural change.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for sharing that. So now let's talk a little bit about that grist mill being there years and years ago, and maybe some of the stories that we can learn about the grist mill. Everyone has a story to tell. All of you, you have stories about your family, about your relatives, about your friends. Our job tonight is to learn the stories from San Antonio Missions and then see if we can become part of the story. So when I was on their website, I saw some beautiful photographs, and these are some of the people that are telling the story of San Antonio Missions. So this is a picture of Mickey and Carl, and they are holding up photos and a painting of some of their ancestors that lived at Mission San Juan. This is a family, Suzanne, Rosie, Cindy, and Art. And if you'll look, each of them are holding a photo of someone that's in their family. And I want you to look at their smiles because they're proud of this. They are proud of their family. And if you look at Art, and he's the only guy in the group, he's holding a picture of Aunt Susie's house. Now you have to go on the website to read about Aunt Susie, but this is her house after it was moved. But look at how they're holding those photos. These are special stories to them. And then this last photo, which I think is absolutely beautiful. This is a daughter, and then a mom, and then a grandfather. So 3 generations at Mission San Juan, because they're proud of their heritage. They're proud of the stories that have been told at San Antonio Missions, and they want those stories to continue. So I'm going to ask you a question. What is your family story? Who tells the story of your family? Do you have a grandparent or a great-grandparent that you listen to stories from? Do you have special photos that you like to look at? Do you have a book that you open it up and then you see pictures, or you might have a quilt or a piece of pottery at your class, or a picture on the wall that when you look at that, you go, that's my family. I love my family. So we want you to remember that it's important for you to learn about the stories of others. And it's also very important for you to tell your own story, because you are the keeper of those. And if in 100 years, someone wants to look back and say, hey, I remember these kids from Tennessee, and I wonder what happened to them. You have to be able to write those stories down so people can learn about you in the future. So we're going to move into another part of our story tonight called What Do You See? What Do You Know? And What Do You Wonder? So I'm going to show a quick 90-second video, and there is no sound to it. So you can only use your eyes to comprehend or understand what's happening. I want you to look and see if you can tell the story that I'm trying to share with you. I'm going to give you a hint. It has something to do with our STEM challenge tonight. So let's take a look at what do you see, what do you know, and what do you wonder? So looking at this, look how fast these people are moving. There are hundreds of people walking on this sidewalk. What do you think it's going to do to the sidewalk after a while? Think about that for just a moment. Just them moving across it may wear and tear the sidewalk. Here's another sidewalk and it's all cracked. How did that happen? Do you think water had anything to do with this? Do you think storms may have washed it out? Well, we have a solution. We are going to try to make sure that we create new sidewalks or restore old sidewalks to make them look like they belong. So this person here is pouring cement. This is sand and water. They're pouring cement on this rebar, and now they're walking in this cement because they have to mix it all up. And then the last thing they have to do is they have to smooth out this cement because they want to make sure that these sidewalks are safe. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to find out how we can make the sidewalk safe. So we're going to be talking about goal number 6, which is water, clean water, and goal number 7, which is, number 11, which is sustainable cities and communities. I want you to meet an expert in the room that's going to help us with our challenge tonight. So I'd like to welcome Emily Welchel. Emily, thank you for joining us tonight. And you, in your honor, I am going to wear my engineering hat because I feel like this is important to talk about while we're looking at our engineer. So Emily, tell us a little bit about yourself.
You didn't tell me I needed to bring my hard hat. I could have gotten it out of my car.
I wanted to be the only one on film that looked this cool. So
Well, great. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Emily Welchel. I am a civil engineer by training from Purdue University. I got my bachelor's degree and my master's degree in civil engineering from Purdue. And now I work as a structural engineer where I design and repair buildings. And so
wow.
A structural engineer is one type of engineering that actually falls under the umbrella of civil engineering. Civil engineering as a whole has to do with what we call infrastructure. And infrastructure is everything that you see around you, all the buildings, roads, bridges, all of those things fall into infrastructure. And those are what keep our cities and our homes and everything moving and transporting everything properly. That's all infrastructure. And so as a civil engineer, you help make sure that all of the homes and all of the offices and different communities are getting fresh water. You make sure that there's clean and safe roads so that all of the goods and food and everything that we use in our lives can get transported where it needs to go. And we also build buildings for us to live and work and play in. And so all of those things are part of civil engineering. And that is why I became a civil engineer, because I wanted to help my community. And I thought that that would be a great way to help my community in a big way, to help build structures that can help those around me.
Well, I was very interested to know, Emily, that you actually have worked with the National Park Service before. So you have worked in the restoration of older buildings.
Yes.
Well, how?
At my firm, which is called RC Engineers in Indianapolis, we do a lot of work for restoring old buildings and historic buildings. So with those types of structures, it's very challenging because you want to preserve the history, but you also need to make sure that it's safe. And so sometimes there's a balance that you have to find between making something historic and also making it safe by today's standards. And so that challenge comes in to trying to find ways to make things safe, without ruining the way that it used to look.
Well,
And
that
so
is
it
a
takes-
beautiful segue
Oh, well-
into our challenge. In fact, Ranger William was giving you a thumbs up all throughout that. So did Ranger Lisa, because that's where their passion is. So let's go to our challenge and then we'll come back and see if we have any questions. So kids, here we go. This is all you now. We need you to think about water and how it's important to us, but how it also can be a hazard to the missions. If you watch the video that we put out last week, you'll find out that Ranger Elia talks about limestone, and this is the stone that's right there at the surface of the ground. And there are parts of the mission that are kind of crumbling a little bit. There are also some of the sidewalks and the trails that need to be repaired. But as Ranger Williams says, we want to make sure we're repairing them in a way that makes it look like it's still part of the missions. So we're going to ask you to redesign some sidewalks and some trails so that they're safe to walk on. So let's come back to me for a moment. When my husband wasn't looking, I went outside and took this paver off of our back porch. Don't tell him. And I noticed that even though this is not very old, there's already some weathering happening here on the bottom part of it and on the side. So as we decide how we're going to redesign sidewalks and trails for San Antonio missions, we can think about cement and concrete, but we also want to think about things that can make the area beautiful. So I'm going to start with some paper and I'm going to draw out some designs. And I also have some things I found around the house in the trash can. So these are empty containers. And I know that for some of you, you were given some bags that had some different things in it, including some Legos. So what we're going to ask you to do, families, this is going to be the time where we're going to let you unmute and raise your hand if you would like to share. What are some of your ideas that you would like to share with the Rangers and with engineer Emily for San Antonio mission? So who has an idea? How can you, oh, here we go already. So we've got Emily and Calvin Shields. So you can unmute your microphone and tell us about your ideas.
So my idea was like to redo the cement entirely, and then like kind of like put like sand on top of it, like so it looks older, like
Okay.
and it's like colored because of the weathering. And maybe you could like use like the jackhammer to like crack the ground up a little if it was get cracked up.
I hope that you see that the Rangers are smiling at you because you're using words like jackhammers and they know what those are too. And I feel very confident that they would be happy that you're talking about maybe putting some sand over it to make it look like it's been there for a long time. So that's a great idea. While we're talking to some others, if you have any paper there, can you draw out a little sketch of that for me? And you can share that in just a moment. Who else would like to share? We would like to hear from some other people that might have ideas and or a question for one of the Rangers or our engineer. So it looks like the Schwanecamps are just busy as they can be drawing over there, but who else would like to share? If you want to, just unmute your microphone. I see people looking at me. What would you like to share about your ideas for helping out our Rangers at San Antonio missions? Don't be shy.
I have an idea.
Go for it.
I was thinking maybe to put something down so that it holds down so that it stays there for a while so nothing happens to it, but also adding like like cracks in it and putting like little bits of planting like little bits of grass and stuff like that to make it look like it was originally there, and like and the stuff that they had back then to make it look like it was from back then, and not like changing it a ton.
Yeah, so you don't want to change the appearance of it too much, but you want to make sure that it's not eroding and weathering away. What else?
I want to save it too.
Oh, you want to agree with that?
You want to save it? You want to save it too?
Okay, that's okay. And I don't know if you saw in the chat window, Ranger Lisa talked about maybe using some of the native plants that are around there in your design so that you're not putting in something that's invasive, but you're using some of the native ones. All right, Miss Spinks, Takaya, is that the name? I apologize if I said that wrong. Would you like to share?
Yes.
All right, tell us about your idea.
To make the park out of materials that aren't easily eroded.
Do you know of any materials that you could do that with?
You could do it with cement and stuff like that.
Say granite.
Granite.
Oh, granite would be a good one. Yeah, and so what I'm going to encourage you to do is maybe do a little research on that so that when we share these ideas with the Rangers, see, we're going to give the Rangers some work. We're going to make them go through all these ideas and see which ones would be great for their area. So they're going to want to know, like, did you research the idea? Is it something we really could use? Because they're very smart, but they need your help to help solve this problem. So thanks for sharing that. All right, back to the shields. Emily and Calvin.
Oh my God, I just forgot my thing. Oh, I remember. So in my classroom for school, we're studying the Southwest region in social studies, which is kind of cool because this is linked to Texas, which is in the Southwest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just sharing that, or you didn't have another idea?
And my teacher is gonna do one of the things where you like go somewhere.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. And I love that you're learning about that area, because what would work in Vermont in that ecosystem may not work in the Southwest. So when you're deciding how you're going to solve a problem for San Antonio, you have to make sure that the materials you use can stand up to the heat there, because as Elia said, it's hot there. He likes that, but it's hot there. So you want to make sure that the materials work there. Thanks for sharing that. That was a great idea. Anyone else in our group have an idea to share? If your little hand doesn't go up on your Zoom, okay, Leonard Davis, I see that name. Can you unmute?
What you could do with the old sidewalks is, instead of redoing them, you could like pour the stuff that they have on like the tables at restaurants, that like the resin. Yeah, the resin, and you could pour it on the sidewalks. That way it wouldn't wear down the concrete and it would just wear down the resins. So you could put more resin on when all the other resin wears off.
First of all, resin is a great word, and thank you for sharing that. I saw Ranger William with another thumbs up over there. That might be a way, because if it's clear epoxy or resin, you'll still see the beauty of the sidewalk, but you're protecting it. So I love that idea. Thank you so much for sharing that. Who else is out there with an idea? I see some faces. You can even ask a question if you want to. It doesn't have to be Ranger William. You're giving me a thumbs up, but I think you've got a comment to say with that, don't you?
Yes, I do. I'm just so impressed by number one, the ideas that we're getting from the people that are watching the program right now. These are amazing ideas. And I also want to compliment you and thank you for having this program so that we can get these great ideas, because you're a source of information based on this program and the wonderful contributions by these young scholars. So thank you.
Well, thank you. We're so excited. We get very tickled, if you will, when we listen to these ideas, because you would think that maybe they're going to be very simple. These are not simple ideas. They're very complex. The kids are really thinking about this, which makes me happy. Melinda, I see your hand up. Do you want to unmute your microphone and you can go ahead and share?
How does the concrete wear up as people walk across it, and how does it wear up by itself when they're walking across it?
That is a great idea. I'm going to hope that maybe my engineer, Emily, could you talk just for a moment about how cement and concrete sometimes wears away when people are walking on it?
Sure. So it's from both walking on it, but it also could be from if there's any sort of gardening equipment, or maybe wheelbarrows or things like that that are going on those paths. And sometimes those can then beat up the paths. But the major thing is actually the water, because if you think about what water can do over hundreds and hundreds of years, that it can actually erode away that stone. And even over the last 100 years, concrete sidewalks can be eroded away just from water. And so if you think about how rivers can form canyons, that's just water cutting away at stone for years and years and years. And the same thing happens on sidewalks and paths that have been there for hundreds of years.
So you spoke just a moment about canyons and rivers that carve through canyons. Melinda, I'm going to ask that this week, if you're on break, that I want you to look up Bryce Canyon National Park. So they have something there called oodoos, and these are large spires of rocks that have been eroded and carved away by water. And it's not a bad thing because they are absolutely beautiful. So as we said before, water is life and we need that. But how do we control it or take care of things that have been damaged by it? That was a great question, Melinda. And I like that you're thinking about you need to know the knowledge before you actually begin to build something. So thank you. Is there anyone else who has a question for us or an idea? I see a few other people on the call. Even if you've spoke before, we're okay with you talking again. Neely and Sadie, do you have an idea? I see you watching. Are you just learning with us tonight?
I think they're some of our Woodard Wildcats that are on there. So, hey, Neely and Sadie, we're so glad to see you.
Do you want? What about? Hey, do you want? We said you could you build like a cover over it to keep the rain from?
A roof on the sidewalk.
Like, could you build like an awning or a roof over the sidewalks?
Well, I'm hearing some really good ideas from the back of the room there, but you know what? We haven't thought about that yet, thinking of how we could cover those sidewalks. So, Elia, what do you think about that? How would that work? Would there be opportunity to maybe cover some of the really damaged sidewalks so they could be fixed and then protected from the water later on?
I think that's a great idea. That's something that's definitely worth exploring. Yeah, I don't know, but we could totally do some fun stuff. It could actually end up being like a really cool art project too.
It would be a nice art project. So we hope that Neely and Sadie, if that's something you're thinking about, that you could draw, maybe get your paper out and draw some ideas and then share that, that would be wonderful. Calvin, you have another idea, and then we're going to go to Melinda. So Calvin first.
So I was thinking something that also could erode the path down is bikes.
Ooh.
Bikes.
But don't allow bikes.
Yes.
Make
So
more
that,
bike paths.
okay, so you're saying that bikes would be something that would wear down a path. So maybe build more paths for just the bikes. Is that what you're saying? Am I communicating that right?
Yeah. Or like
Perfect.
limit the number of people who go through.
That's a great idea. And I know that national parks do have some of those regulations in place where they regulate how many people can go down into a canyon, how many people can go onto a trail. So again, that's something great to think about. Melinda, and then Leonard.
How do they make concrete? Like, what do they make it out of?
So Emily?
I can answer that one. So
excellent.
Concrete is made up of 4 different things. And sometimes there's some extra things that you throw in there for other reasons, but there's 4 basic ingredients. The first one is rocks. And if you want to sound really smart, you can call them aggregates. Then the next thing is sand. So little fine sand, just like you see on the beach. The third thing is cement. So if you're being very specific about exactly what sidewalks and driveways are made out of, those are actually made out of concrete. And cement is one of the ingredients that goes into concrete. And so cement is a fine white powder that looks a lot like sand. But what happens is when you add the 4th ingredient, which is water, that cement and the water together become like glue. And that glue binds together all the rocks and sand, and then that glue sticks them all together, and you can form it into different shapes. You can smooth it out, you can give it different textures, and then when it's all dry, it becomes concrete. And that concrete will gain strength over the period of about a month, and then it will be at its peak strength after about a month. And so that's why when you see sidewalks being poured, you'll see caution tape around them, because you're not allowed to walk on them when they're still wet, because otherwise your footprints will be there. And so then once it's fully dry, it becomes really hard, and then you can walk and bike and do all kinds of things on the concrete when it's all fully cured and fully dry. So it's a lot like gluing rocks together, and that is what concrete is.
Well, thank you so much. I love that we have experts in the room. So I have another person, Melinda Watson. So I see the name Melinda Watson. If that's you, can you unmute and share your idea?
So my idea is that we can reroute the water underneath the sidewalk with pipes.
Oh my goodness. I think we should just drop the mic there. We're having so many great conversations, and you want to reroute the water. So that would take a lot of engineering also, because you'd have to sort of work with plumbing. That is a great idea. And what is your first name?
Webb.
Webb, I've actually seen you on some of our adventures before. I have a video of you creating things for Mount Everest. I saw some solar. Yes, that was you. You created some solar caps, and we shared that with the explorer, and he actually took that idea all the way up to the top of Mount Everest. So there you've got another idea. Yeah, so you've come up with another idea, rerouting that. So thank you so much for sharing that. And then I think we'll go to one more, and that's Carissa Schwanekamp.
Okay, go ahead. Talk to her.
One of my friends digged on the ground and they did concrete, and I want to make that too.
You want to make that too? So I think that would be a good thing to try. And I think you can recreate concrete with some baking materials. It won't be as strong, but I do know that cream of tartar is one of the things you can use to sort of create a baking cement, if you will. Kids, I am so amazed at you. First of all, thank you. Everybody that's the adult in this group, they're all thanking you now and giving you a huge round of applause because you guys are coming up with such amazing ideas. And I could just spend all night doing this, but we have to let you go sometime. So let's go back to our deck for just a moment. I want you to, teachers, if you can our parents grab this information, maybe Miss Zimmerman, if you can drop it into the chat window. We would like to continue the conversation with you. And if you would like to share your ideas once you get them ready to go, and maybe you even have a prototype, you're going to go to flipgrid.com/627-6BCFE. So if Miss Zimmerman or Miss Schwanekamp can grab that, there we are. It's already in there. Parents, what I would do right now is either take a photo of that or click on that link and open it up into another screen for just a moment, because we've had a great time here tonight, but this isn't over. So we've got these rangers now who are thinking, wait a minute, these kids are going to solve our problems. So we need them to solve the problems for us. So after tonight, we're waiting now for all of those ideas from the kids who will watch this later on to the kids that started this adventure with us. I want to thank you so much. Parents, first of all, you're on break, right? And a lot of you are on spring break, and you have brought your kids to this event. I can tell you there's no greater investment than spending time with your children, your family, and helping them to solve problems that can change the world. There's a quote that never doubt that a few people that are very energetic and passionate about solving problems can change the world, because that's how it starts, with a few people. I want to thank each one of my students tonight for coming and sharing the ideas, even the ones that didn't talk tonight, because you may be just like my husband, who thinks a lot about the ideas before he shares them. So you might be going back tonight and thinking, oh, I could do this. That's when you're going to share with us. I want to thank our amazing rangers for being part of this, my teacher helpers, Emily, our engineer. Rangers, I'm going to give you one more moment. Your final word of advice to each of these students who have said, I'm raising my hand and I'm going to accept the challenge to help you. So let's start with Ranger William. What advice can you give our students for the night?
First, I have to say thank you, thank you, thank you. My advice would be to keep doing what you're doing. You've provided us with some invaluable information that is going to be super for our park. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. Ranger Lisa, we're going to come to you next.
My advice would be to keep learning. There's always something new to learn, and the more you expand your knowledge, even though it's not, something you're looking for, it's something different, will eventually tie into something that you're working on later on. So I would just say keep learning.
Thank you very much. Ranger Rachel, I know your video's not working, but you can still come on and share your advice for us.
Yes, my advice is to be creative. That can be one of the best tools in how we find new solutions. So Always be creative.
Thank you. And then Ranger Elia, who came the furthest for our event tonight, 5,000 miles. What's your advice for these kids?
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off Ranger Rachel here, but definitely what made all your ideas so awesome today was how creative and original they were. So keep thinking outside the box, find special ways to solve common problems. You're doing great.
And Emily, again, we want to thank you for being here. I would take my hat off now because the engineering part of this adventure is over, but I'm going to have hat head and it's going to look really bad. So I'm going to keep my hat on. I'm going to thank you again for joining us tonight. And a special thank you to the National Park Foundation, who continues to love and support us as we reach kids across the country, solving problems using the national parks as their venue. So everyone smile and give me a nice, beautiful smile so I can get a screenshot of how gorgeous all of you are. I just want to again, thank you for being here. Thank you for being part. Oh, we got some more cameras coming on. That's beautiful. Let me just get a beautiful picture. Oh, that Tina Courts, that smile is just giving me all the feels right now. And thank you so much. Have a great night. And our last event, kids, will be the end of April, and I will send your teachers the link and your families the link, but we're going to be at the Ford Motor Museum of Innovation in Detroit, Michigan, with the Motor Cities National Heritage Area, and we're going to build cars. So thank you so much for joining us. We will see you soon, and have a great night. Bye. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Zimmerman, thank you so much for doing it, for reaching all these kids for us. Thank you, Schwannekamp from Indiana. Emily, you were the best. Next time I'll remind you to wear a hat, but I wanted to be the cutest in the room tonight with the hat on. Thanks, Melinda Watson and all my Rangers. Goodbye. Thank you so much. Rangers, you are amazing. Thank you for jumping on. I know it's late over there and you've got things to do, but you are the best, and I love you all. And I hope to see you very, very soon. We'll have to come back and do a reboot, San Antonio 2.0. Does that sound good?
Sounds perfect. Can't wait to see you.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.